You walk into a French grocery store to get what you need to make dinner. You pick up French carrots, Dutch mushrooms, Italian pasta, and Spanish olive oil. You pay in euros, but there's one line on your receipt that shows how much you would have paid had you paid in francs. But you can't pay in francs because it's been 15 years since anyone accepted them. If you pull one out of your wallet, you won't be able to do anything with it. But still the receipt shows, every time, 6.56 francs to the euro. In every meaningful way, Europe has adopted the euro as its currency. But people still hold fast to their old currencies, and there's a wave of politicians across Europe calling for return to their national coin. Why do they want this? How would they do it? And what impact would it have? We'll explain in 2 parts. The idea of a common currency for Europe goes back more than a century, but the concept for the euro came out of the European Commission in the 1960s, and the work of a Nobel Prize-winning economist, Robert Mundell. To understand, first we have to look at the way currencies work today. Most major currencies are floating, which means the value of the currency changes with the market, that is, supply and demand for the currency. Imagine the currency floating in a pool, moving up and down as people get in and out of the water. This is a simplification of all the many things that drive currency prices, but those are a bit too much to fit into one video. Let's travel to the small island nation of Dolfinia that uses a currency called doubloons. The doubloon is no longer made of gold, but they kept the name because they liked it. Dolfinia makes world-famous machines and has some of those beautiful beaches with the most delicious margaritas. To buy these machines and enjoy the beach, people need doubloons. Today, the doubloon is cheap, so tourists and people who need these machines can get a great deal. So people jump into the doubloon pool. But as more jump in, the doubloon floats up in price, slowly becoming more expensive. As Dolfinia gets richer, the Dolfinians, now with an expensive doubloon, find it cheap to travel to Paris on vacation and to buy more European products. European tourists find it more expensive to visit Dolfinia, so local industry shrinks. As Dolfinians sell their doubloons for euros, the price slowly floats back down. When buying and selling currencies, people pay a transaction fee to the person making the exchange. The inconvenience of converting money isn't so bad when it's done only occasionally on annual vacation or when purchasing a new machine. But what about when it's not a distant island, but the country right next door, like in Europe, where international transactions are a daily occurrence? This is where Mundell's research into an optimum currency area comes in. An optimum currency area exists, generally, when it's better to share a common currency to avoid the inconveniences of converting. It's optimum when 4 criteria are met. There is high labor mobility. There is high capital mobility. The countries have similar business cycles, which means the economies tend to grow and shrink at the same time, and there are common risk-sharing systems, which means that when regions don't grow and shrink together, the more successful regions help the less successful ones. You might notice that some of these elements are basically the 4 freedoms of the European Union. How much the Eurozone meets these criteria is a subject of tremendous debate among economists, policymakers, and politicians. This debate forms the basis of the desire to leave the euro, and we'll get to that. As the European Commission expanded and worked toward closer union, so did the idea of a common currency gain popularity. The process toward the euro began in full at the beginning of the 1990s, as Europe liberalized the free flow of money and worked toward converging their currencies into the euro and their economies into the single market. In 1992, 12 European nations came together to sign the Maastricht Treaty, also known as the Treaty on European Union. This treaty formed the basis for both the European Union and the euro. Members of the European Union pledged to join the euro once they met certain economic and financial standards. The United Kingdom and Denmark negotiated opt-outs to joining the euro, but every other member is obliged to eventually join the eurozone. In 1998, exchange rates between the euro and national currencies were fixed, that 6.56 we see on receipts. The euro came into existence in 1999, but it wasn't until 2002 that euro notes and coins replaced national currencies in people's wallets. The benefits of the euro can be felt all across the economy, from simple ways to complex ways. The most simple is the ease by which someone can travel around Europe without changing money. A Belgian can travel to France for work and then take a vacation to Portugal without ever having to think about converting her money. That's a tremendous psychological and economic benefit to the daily lives of many Europeans, but the real benefit is not easily seen. Think about that cross-European dinner you made earlier. Taking out some layers of complexity here, the grocer buys all this food from producers in different countries. Without the euro, the grocer would have to work in 4 different currencies to get the ingredients for your dinner, which means he has to worry about exchange rate risk. That's the risk that the price of currencies will diverge in the future. He has to plan ahead to buy everything you're going to want for dinner. Changing currency prices mean the price of olive oil is not always stable. There are a lot of complex ways they can manage this risk, for example, locking in the price today for olive oil that they will buy in 6 months. But this costs money and can be difficult the more transactions they need to manage. The smaller the country and the more it relies on diverse goods from other countries, the worse this problem gets. And that's nothing compared to the countless tariffs and trade barriers that make goods even more expensive. All the costs of managing exchange risk and paying tariffs increases the prices for consumers. So the euro means more diversity in goods at cheaper prices for all Europeans. Banks and other financiers have an easier time lending to projects across the Eurozone because they also don't have to worry about exchange rates. The more integrated the Eurozone, the fewer transaction fees everyone pays, making the economy more efficient for everyone. The euro means a more integrated finance system and lower borrowing costs for all Europeans. All this interconnectedness is the goal of the euro, not just for economic gain. It's the ultimate form of the 1950 Schuman Declaration that began the entire European project, to unite Europe economically to make war not only unthinkable, but materially impossible. So why is anyone unhappy in the face of the many benefits of the euro? Why would anyone want to leave, and what happens when they do? We'll explain in part 2. Hey, thanks for watching. As you can tell, we're still getting the hang of this YouTube thing. And what we've learned is that YouTube treats us differently depending on viewer engagement. So when you click the like button or the subscribe button, it actually makes a huge difference in terms of our ability to get noticed and shared on YouTube. So you could help.